Welcome to Castle's Driver Onboarding and Safety Training. This training will include the following learning objectives: vehicle classifications, driving safety fundamentals, daily vehicle inspection reports, load securement, hours of service, driver responsibilities, and golden rules. Vehicle classifications. Castle has implemented a system that identifies 3 classifications of vehicles. Drivers will additionally be categorized by one of 3 classifications, depending on the type of vehicle they will be operating. In this section, we will review the 3 classifications and discuss the qualification requirements for drivers in each one. The first classification we will discuss is the light-duty vehicle classification. In this classification, you will have all vehicles that are less than 10,001 pounds gross vehicle weight rating. These will include vehicles such as half-ton trucks, small SUVs, and any other vehicles not large enough to be classified as a commercial motor vehicle. The next classification type we will discuss is the medium-weight vehicle classification. This includes any vehicles that exceed a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds but not above 26,000 pounds. Essentially, the medium-weight vehicle classification captures any vehicle large enough to be considered a commercial motor vehicle, but not one large enough to require the need for the driver to possess a CDL license. Vehicles in the medium-weight classification would include 3/4-ton trucks, such as F-250s and 2500s, or 1-ton vehicles, such as F-350s and 3500s. The final classification is the heavy-haul vehicle classification. This consists of any commercial motor vehicles that would also require the driver to have a Class A or B commercial driver's license, or to have a tanker or hazardous materials endorsement. It's important to note the heavy-haul classification will almost always incorporate the use of a trailer, but if a trailer is used in the light-duty or medium-duty classifications, it is possible the requirements will change. For any questions concerning this, please reach out to your supervisor or Castle's DOT department. Now that we've covered the 3 different vehicle classification, let's look at the required qualifications each driver must meet before operating any of these 3 categories of vehicles. The following qualifications will be met by all light-duty drivers for the company. Light-duty drivers must be at least 21 years of age. They must be able to read, write, and speak the English language well enough to successfully do their job, which would include the ability to read traffic signs, complete required documentation, and converse with enforcement officials. They must possess a driver's license from the state in which they currently reside. They must have a clean motor vehicle driving record, as determined by current safety department guidelines. They must successfully complete a road test, as well as any company-required driver safety training. They must have the ability, either by way of training or experience, to successfully determine if the cargo they are transporting is properly loaded, distributed, and secured, as well as being familiar with the methods for securing cargo. And finally, they must follow all company rules and regulations, in addition to performing necessary inspections and other documentation that may be required. Drivers of vehicles in the medium weight classification must meet all the requirements of a driver in the light-duty classification. Additionally, they must meet the following qualifications. Drivers must complete a DOT application, which can be sent to them electronically. They must not be currently disqualified from operating a commercial motor vehicle, as defined by 49 CFR 391.15. They must be medically evaluated to show they are medically capable of operating a commercial vehicle. And finally, they must be able to safely operate the type and size vehicle they will be driving. Drivers of vehicles in the heavy-haul classification must meet the qualifications of a medium-weight driver, as well as the following. Drivers must possess a valid and properly classified commercial driver's license, with the proper endorsements, for the type of vehicle being operated. Drivers must submit to federal motor carrier drug and alcohol testing, as required, and they must grant the company consent to conduct an FMCSA clearinghouse background investigation. Driving safety fundamentals. Daily vehicle inspections. Safety is the most important reason you must inspect your vehicle. This will greatly affect the safety for yourself and for other road users. A vehicle defect found during an inspection could save you problems later. You could have a breakdown on the road that will cost time and money, or even worse, a crash caused by a defect. Federal and state laws require that drivers inspect commercial vehicles daily. Federal and state inspectors may also inspect your vehicles. If they judge the vehicle to be unsafe, they will put it out of service until it has been fixed and a citation will be issued. Safety is the most important reason you must inspect your vehicle, safety for yourself and for other road users. A vehicle defect found during an inspection could save you problems later. You could have a breakdown on the road that will cost time and money, or even worse, a crash caused by a defect. Federal and state laws require that drivers inspect commercial vehicles daily. Federal and state inspectors may also inspect your vehicles. If they judge the vehicle to be unsafe, they will put it out of service until it has been fixed and a citation will be issued. Drivers are responsible for performing inspections of their vehicles in accordance with the requirements for their vehicle type. If you are driving a vehicle in the medium weight or heavy haul classifications, you must perform a documented inspection daily. You may decide to make this a pre-trip or post-trip, meaning you can choose to inspect it first thing in the morning or at the end of each shift. No matter the method, once defects are found, they need to be corrected by listing them on the DVIR. If the defect causes the vehicle to be unsafe, notify your supervisor. Load securement. As the driver, you are solely responsible for verifying that any cargo you are transporting has been properly loaded, positioned, and secured before placing the vehicle in service. Cargo being transported on public roadways must remain secured on or within the vehicle at all times. The driver is responsible for inspecting the load of the vehicle you will be operating, even if you did not load or secure the cargo. It is very important to make sure correct ball size is being used for the trailer that's being connected. The connection has been inspected, appropriate tie-downs are being used, multiple tie-down points are established if needed, the weight of the load is evenly distributed, and the items used to secure the load are of proper length, width, material, and load capacity. Improperly secured loads pose a danger, not only to the driver, but to other employees and the general public, as well. An improperly secured load can result in risk of an accident. In most cases, reduced visibility for the driver and other drivers traveling on the road. Increased stopping distance, which can pose a hazard to not only yourself, but others around you, as well. Damage to cargo is another result of an improperly secured load. If the cargo you are hauling is not properly secured, it can not only cause damage to your vehicle, but other vehicles, as well. Road hazards. Falling cargo from a moving vehicle can create all kinds of hazards involving moving traffic. This could possibly become a very serious situation, if not a life-threatening occurrence. Legal consequences. Improperly secured loads can create very serious situations. You as the driver are responsible for the loads you are hauling, therefore, could be held legally responsible in the event of an injury from cargo or materials shifting off the back of your truck or trailer causing an accident. Environmental consequences. Depending on the materials being transported, there could come into play environmental concerns, such as spills or release of harmful chemicals into the environment. Drivers must ensure that loads will remain secured at all times and under all conditions that could reasonably be expected to occur in normal driving operations. Additionally, cargo or any other objects must not obscure the driver's view ahead or to the sides, interfere with the free movement of the driver's arms or legs, or prevent the driver from being able to quickly access emergency equipment. There are many different options for securing loads on or about the vehicle. If you are unsure as to which methods may work best, contact your supervisor or the safety department. Drivers should ensure there are no materials on the beds of trucks or trailers that are not secured. Items greater than 5 feet in length should have a minimum of 2 straps to ensure securement. Objects must not obscure the driver's view ahead or to the sides, they must not interfere with the free movement of the driver's arms or legs, and cargo should never prevent the driver from quickly being able to access emergency equipment. Any loose mud, gravel or other debris should be cleaned off of equipment and trailer beds before getting onto the public roadway. Drivers are responsible for making sure all loads are secure, even if you did not load the cargo yourself. Anything that is loose in the bed of the vehicle must be secured, especially if it has the potential to bounce out during travel. Trailers and equipment must be cleared of all gravel, mud and other debris that could fall off and strike other vehicles. To better understand how and why cargo must be properly secured, you need to understand a little about the forces that are applied to the load during transit. Forces are continually applied toward the load from different directions when you travel. There is a forward force applied to the load when you apply the brakes. This force is equal to approximately 80% of the weight of the cargo. When you turn to the left or the right, there is a force applied to the load in the opposite direction of the turn. This force is generally half the weight of the load. If you apply the brakes and there is a force up to 80% of the load's weight that is applied, then you must have the proper type of load securement to accommodate that weight. For example, let's say you are pulling a trailer and have a loaded cargo that weighs 1,000 pounds. That means that when you apply the brakes, you could have a force of up to 800 pounds applied to the load, trying to force it towards the cab of the vehicle. If you turn to the right or left, you could have up to 500 pounds of force pushing the load in the opposite direction. Because of this, your equipment used for securing cargo must be rated for the potential loads that would be applied to them. These items must be in good working order and must be free of damage. Hours of service. The Federal Hours of Service regulations are rules that were put in place by the federal government to help keep our highways safe by keeping tired drivers off the road. FMCSA, as well as individual states, have been charged with setting and enforcing minimum standards for rest, and they limit the number of hours you can work and drive. The hours of service rules are found in 49 CFR Part 395. If you operate a commercial motor vehicle, the hours of service rules apply to you. So, what is a commercial motor vehicle? A commercial motor vehicle, or CMV, is any vehicle used in commerce on a public roadway when that vehicle or combination of vehicles weighs or is rated above 10,000 pounds, is used to haul hazardous materials in an amount that would require a placard, such as having over 119 gallons of fuel in a single tank, is designed or used to transport 16 or more passengers, including the driver, or is designed or used to transport 9 or more passengers, including the driver, for direct compensation. So, what does this mean? Simply put, if you are operating a vehicle in the medium weight or heavy haul classifications, then you are operating a commercial motor vehicle, and the hours of service rules will apply to you. The hours of service rules distinguish between property carrying and passenger carrying commercial vehicles. There are different rules for each one. The majority of the time, however, we will be operating property carrying CMVs, so this training will focus only on these rules. Understanding the difference between whether you are considered as being on duty or off duty will make it much easier to understand which rules apply and when. The more time you spend on duty, the more likely you won't be able to do much more driving until you take some time off duty. Let's define what on duty means. This means all the time from when a driver begins work or is required to be in a state of readiness for work until the time when he or she is relieved from all work and all responsibilities for performing work. Basically, if you are working or standing by to begin work, or if you are required to be somewhere or have an expectation to do something for the company or for any other motor carrier or company, you are considered on duty. Now let's define what off-duty means. This time includes all times when you are completely relieved of all duties and responsibilities for performing any work activities and are free to pursue activities of your own choosing. If you are not doing any work, paid or unpaid, and are under no obligations. The majority of the time, we will be operating under what is known as the short-haul exemption. Essentially, the short-haul exemption prevents drivers from having to run a logbook as long as they meet the following conditions. The driver begins and ends the day from the same location. The driver operates within 150 air miles of that location. The driver does not exceed a 14-hour workday, and a daily timesheet is kept. showing the time the driver came on duty, the total hours for the day and time the driver went off duty each day. In addition to not having to run a logbook, the 8 and 30 rule does not apply either when operating under the exemption. All other time limit rules will still apply when operating under the short haul exemption. Drivers who are actively driving will be required to place themselves on duty when they begin work each day using the electronic logging application. They will also perform their daily vehicle inspection record inside this application. At the end of the day, the driver will take themselves back off duty the same way. Other qualified backup drivers' time will be recorded by the project's timekeeper. FMCSA requires that drivers have extra supplies in their trucks in the event a logbook is needed, and they experience problems with the application. Each truck is required to have an additional 7 copies of paper logs, an electronic device holder and some instructional sheets for the electronic logging system at all times while in operation. Drivers should verify these items are in the truck each day while performing their daily inspections. Driver responsibilities. In addition to the safety of themselves and their passengers, there are some additional responsibilities that are specific to drivers. In this section, we will review some of the driver responsibilities discussed in this training. Like all employees at the company, drivers must report all incidents or accidents immediately to their supervisor or to the safety department. This requirement is extremely important when it comes to issues such as traffic accidents. Drivers are also responsible for reporting damage found to the vehicle, even if they are unsure how it occurred. A good practice is to make sure you list all found defects on a vehicle when you first take possession of it. This will protect you against claims of damage that you may not have caused. Like all employees at the company, drivers must report all incidents or accidents immediately to their supervisor or to the safety department. They must perform daily inspections, verify loads are properly secured, never operate a vehicle in red on Geotab, never use a mobile phone without a hands-free device, and they must never begin operating the vehicle until all passengers have on their seatbelts. Golden rules. Many accidents are caused by drivers involved in road rage incidents. Road rage can only make a bad situation worse. As a driver, you just have to accept that some people are going to drive the way they do, no matter how angry you get. Doing risky things in a vehicle in an enraged state of mind will never turn out good. If you see someone else involved in a road rage incident, simply slow down and let the vehicle move on. Do not engage in competition with the other driver. If you try to disengage and they persist, contact law enforcement immediately. As a driver, you should avoid making sudden radical changes or movements. When attempting to make a lane change, turn on your blinker and wait 2 to 3 seconds before changing lanes. This will allow other vehicles time to see you and properly adjust. Sometimes this will cause more aggressive drivers to attempt to move around you. If so, let them go. It is better to have an aggressive driver in front of you rather than behind you riding your bumper. As you drive, try to be predictable and allow other drivers to react. Turn on your turning signals farther in advance to allow drivers time to prepare for the upcoming turn. Drivers should do everything they can to make sure they can be seen by other drivers, especially with all the distracted driving that is occurring today. There are additional steps you can take to make sure you are seen by others. The first thing you can do is make sure your headlights are on when driving in inclement weather, early in the morning, late in the evening, or any other conditions that make it harder to see. Many states have adopted laws that require drivers to turn on their headlights anytime conditions call for the use of windshield wipers. Remember, this is not so that you can see but to make sure you can be seen by others. You should also practice staying out of other vehicles' blind spots. Many drivers are not paying attention and only looking with their peripheral vision as they play on their phones. Don't make a bad situation worse by being in a blind spot. Finally, there may be times when you need to flash your high beams or blow your horn if you believe someone else doesn't see you and a dangerous situation is developing.
Here at the State 911 Center, call takers annually receive tens of thousands of reports of car crashes. Sadly, many of these result in serious injuries or consequences. One of the leading causes of serious collisions is distracted driving. On February 23, 2020, the state's new hands-free law goes into effect. Drivers 18 and older may only use their phones in hands-free mode. Drivers may only touch their phones to activate the hands-free mode or to call 911 in an emergency. So if you're driving or even stopped at a traffic light, you cannot hold the phone to make or receive calls, read or write texts, use email or the internet, or conduct any other form of electronic communication. And remember, drivers under 18 are not allowed to use a phone in any way while operating a motor vehicle. Local and state police officers will be out on the roadways to enforce the provisions of this new law and to educate motorists. Let's work together to reduce the number of crash-related calls to centers like this. Please keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. Nothing on your screen is worth your life or the life of another. Thank you.
Hands-free mobile devices. In general, a hands-free device is a technology or accessory that allows a driver to use their mobile phone or other electronic device without holding it, typically through voice commands, Bluetooth connectivity, or other means that do not require manual handling of the device. Hands-free devices are often promoted as safer alternatives to using handheld devices while driving, as they aim to reduce distractions and help drivers keep their focus on the road. Unauthorized use of castle-owned or rented vehicles is strictly prohibited. If an unauthorized driver is operating a company vehicle, there poses a significant risk for the company, insurance concerns, a violation of company policies, and complete misuse of company assets and resources. Authorized drivers are deemed qualified to operate the specific vehicle for their job task by completing and submitting a driver application, completing driver training, participating in an observed road test. Previous hours of service are verified and have an appropriate DOT drug and alcohol test on file.
Sometimes things don't go according to plan. Several situations can arise, whether it's traveling to and from your job site or operating a vehicle for terms of your employment while at work. The most effective way of handling these unanticipated situations is to always remain calm, have a plan of action, avoid distracted driving behaviors at all costs, be aware of inclement weather situations, and make sure you are properly trained in the event something seems to go wrong. Through this training, we hope that you can confidently and safely operate the specific vehicle related to your daily work task. You have completed the driver onboarding and safety training. Now you will be directed to the final quiz. You must score 80% to pass. Click Next to begin the quiz.